My students of U.S. government, the last time you and I talked, we were talking about the Declaration of Independence and the listing of issues that the authors of that document pointed out as justification for the revolt against British authority. As you remember, much of it was directed against the king, not just that particular king, but perhaps the institution of monarchy itself. Mention was made of Parliament, not always directly by name, but certainly with its powers jointly combined with that of the monarch. A very, very heavily addressed theme in the document. It's not the only theme that was addressed. Domestic issues like relations with Native Americans were addressed. A lot of other things beyond that, but bottom line, what the Declaration did was give a formalized basis for the revolt that was already in military terms well underway. After that document is signed and the fighting is underway, the Americans still needed a set of laws, a set of rules by which to operate since British authority was no longer recognized. The first set of such national standards was the Articles of Confederation, which were adopted in the 1770s. They were put in effect in kind of a hurry, and they were sort of a stopgap measure, you might say. Given the amount of time that was allowed for their consideration, maybe the guys that put them together didn't do that bad a job, but there were some issues. There was a unicameral legislature that didn't take into account population when representing the various states. There was no set national currency. That made trade between the states incredibly complicated. There was no national court system. There was no chief executive who had the authority really to implement any national laws that may have gone into effect. And perhaps the most glaring weakness that became clear was the power to tax did not exist for the national government. They couldn't levy mandatory payments to the government to keep it financially viable. Now, there were other concerns. These are not the only ones, but those are usually the most commonly pointed out. Knowing that is not enough, cite the articles themselves, look at them specifically and their wording, and take one of the issues I've already pointed out to you. Lack of a national currency, lack of a national court system, lack of an effective chief executive, lack of the power to tax. Now, again, there are others beyond those, but those are at least four of the issues that you may address. When we get together in this next week for our next class session, I'll have you questions regarding those themes. Have a great evening. I'll see you soon.